So I did ask this question in email. What is your biggest challenge when it comes to dinner time, the food, or the atmosphere? I got a ton of responses. I love hearing from you guys. Here are some of them. You can see if you see yourself here. So lots of whining about food. There are kids who don't stay at the table. Lots of kids like start well as toddlers and then they get picky. And the snacking was a huge issue I heard about. They love their snacks. They hate their dinners. Kids trying to leave the table and say, I'm done. Taking forever to eat. There were so many good answers. We are going to tackle almost all of these during the presentation, and then the rest I'll stay as long as you need for Q&A time. Just a little bit of background about me. I've been blogging at kitchenstewardship.com since 2009, and my mission there has always been to help families stay healthy without going crazy. I say I have the 4 pillars of kitchen stewardship, which are family, nutrition, and health, the environment, your budget, and your time. And I teach families how to find the techniques and habits that kind of meet in the middle, because sometimes those can really pull and cause a lot of tension. So as I've taught adults to cook and to be healthy, I realize that the next generation needs us too. This is my family. These 4 cute faces are why I do what I do. They're why I care about healthy food. It was really just when I got pregnant that I decided, that I started realizing, I guess, that I learned that healthy food was really important, and it became important to me, feeding these little faces. So just to introduce you to my kiddos, Paul is 12, Leah is 9, John is 6, and Gabe with that shock of blonde hair, he's my little 3-year-old that keeps us all on our toes and keeps us all laughing all the time. I like these pictures. I chose them because they really look pretty good, like they're pro, but this is just my neighbor's porch across the street, and my other neighbor snapped them with my camera. So this is my encouragement to you, that even though sometimes other people's lives may look Pinterest perfect, you do not need to be Pinterest perfect to do something worthwhile. Just snap the picture, right? Just get it done, get the kids interested in food, involved with food, and make it happen. My story is actually not that I did not learn to cook very well as a kid. In fact, when we first got married, I was very young, I was 22, and we had jokes a lot about burnt biscuit bottoms. And this is biscuits from a can, you guys. I couldn't even cook those. I made a lot of Hamburger Helper, and it took me some time. It took some shifts in our lives for me to find the importance of real food and really kind of get that desire welling up in me to help other moms find the balance. And again, as I thought about my own memories as a child, and there aren't a lot of really vivid memories at this point. Like as adults, we don't have a lot of super vivid memories left from our childhood. Like I remember kissing Brian M. in the sandbox in kindergarten because we were playing house, right? That's important. I remember like getting stitches with this awful like green cloth over my face because I split my lip open. But I do have this one memory from kindergarten where we did a tasting activity, like sweet, salty, sour, and bitter. And it was really my first experience with bitter, like both the word and the taste of bitterness. Like I wasn't a fan, a lot of 5-year-olds aren't, but I'll never forget that experience. For some reason that stuck with me. And to me, that tells me that food and taste really matter, right? Food makes an impression and it lasts. And although I don't remember a lot of individual family dinners, we did have family dinners. And to me, that just set the habit, right? For what food is and what family is. And that's our job as parents, right? That we're going to set these habits, and kids may not remember every moment, but it's going to become part of their person. And I want your kids to have memories of tasting food that are positive, that are empowering, and that set really good habits. So that for sure is what we are going to do today. Let me take a quick look at where'd that poll go? I want to know. Oh, good. So I'm taking a quick look at the poll. What holds you back from getting your kids in the kitchen? Actually, the winner is you love having your kids in the kitchen, but can always use more tips, which is so fantastic. Way to be positive, you guys. A lot of moms really do just like not know where to start, or the kids like slow you down, and those aren't always positive feelings, but we can get there. We can totally get there. So we have a lot to cover today. We're going to be jumping in with what you will learn. I'm starting out with a reminder every parent of young kids needs to hear, and I'm always so glad to see in the chat that we've got lots of little ones, parents of little ones coming in. We're talking about 2 ways parents don't even realize they're sabotaging healthy eating. See if you see yourself in these. Don't judge, just get through it, right? The main topic, of course, is 7 proven strategies to make family mealtimes peaceful and, probably more importantly, to get kids to eat better. Give me a yeah in the chat if you're ready for that one. 3 choices to give your kids so they think they're in control. We know who's in control, though. We're going to talk a little bit about the biggest mistake parents make when inviting their kids in the kitchen, and I will share with you my 3-step superpower process to teach kids in the kitchen, which also applies to things outside of the kitchen. And a bonus for you for showing up live, how to teach kids to use knives safely. I have a special gift for you. What are you most excited to learn today, you guys? I'm always interested to hear in the chat, you know, what you're really here for, what you're most excited to learn on this list, or maybe a question that you have. Again, Sonia can grab questions that you have and pull them into a document for me for the Q&A time. And sometimes I see things go by in the chat and I can actually answer them, but things move pretty quickly. I see Sonia Jennifer's having some trouble hearing, and I hope that she can get in. By the end of this hour, you will have tools in your toolbox for every meal. I'm going to give you exact phrases that you can just pull out without having to think too hard, because goodness knows parents have a lot to think about, and we get decision fatigue, especially by the end of the day at dinner. By the end, you will feel confident in serving healthy meals. No more short order cooking, ladies. You will want to get your kids in the kitchen, and I know a 1/3 of you here already do, which is total thumbs up. That's awesome. But you'll have some strategies to make it work. And then be sure to stay for the preview of the knife skills course. That'll happen later on in the presentation. Start out with a really important reminder, and this is just a little bit of love from me to you moms, because as I see those emails come in with your biggest struggle, I just think I know what you need to hear. and it's that, you know, those of you, especially those babies who ate everything, and then they're suddenly this picky eater and they're driving you nuts, and it just seems to last forever. I just got to reassure you that almost every child, even the best eaters, are picky about many things or some things between the ages of 2 and 5. Okay, and I believe this is the first thing on your worksheet too, if you have the worksheet printed out. Between the ages of 2 and 5, moms, oh my goodness, kids are just, we can call them picky. I try not to use that word, but they really are. They really are picky. And you know what? They do that for very good reasons, though. Here are some of your answers on the worksheet. Age 2 and 5 are the most picky. Between the ages of 2 and 5, kids are really starting to learn about the world. They're really trying new things and testing their boundaries, right? Where does my power end and mom's power begin? And they're really figuring out where they have control. Okay, so the good news is most picky eaters between 2 and 5, you just have to be more stubborn than them until they are 6. It's not magic, but man, when kids start to go between 5 and 6, some of that pickiness, if you've done your job and offered lots of good healthy foods, some of that does start to dissipate. Praise be to God. Okay, so if you've got a child between like less than 5, just breathe, okay? And I said I'm going to talk mostly positive here, but just we got to start a little bit with some problems, right? Because some of us parents, parenting's very hard. It's always hard every day. We tend to sabotage healthy dinners, and we don't even quite realize it. We use words like, he's a picky eater, she won't eat it, they won't even try it, or he only likes bland foods. You know, I hear these words even come out of my mouth and my husband's mouth sometimes, and I go, oh, I know that can be a self-fulfilling prophecy, okay? When we put labels on our kids and when we already assume that they won't eat stuff, we're using failing words, and we just have to be really careful of that, okay? We're going to make mistakes all the time. Parents do. But If we can erase these failing words, we're going to get out that eraser and erase these failing words from our vocabulary, moms and dads. You will be so much further ahead on your battle against your, dare I say, picky eater, than if you're using those words, right? So get out the eraser. It's up to you, really, to set the example that your kids need. So not only do you need to show that you're willing to try new foods yourself, right? But try to have your language be hopeful and optimistic, okay? Like so-and-so is choosing not to eat broccoli today, as opposed to so-and-so doesn't eat broccoli. See the difference? Or so-and-so is a picky eater. If we call them that and put them in that box, they're very happy to stay there. Okay, so let's take out those boxes. Let's erase those failing words. You can do this, moms, and I will give you new words to put into your toolbox today to replace those. One more way that parents sabotage dinner, I wonder if you guys know who this little guy is. I saw some responses in email that confirm, and I just know that it's true that all across America, I don't know about the world, I think this is a little more of an American thing. We've got a lot of moms and dads who are being short order cooks. This is my little dude, my little short order cook guy. And that is a definite way to sabotage your kids' healthy eating. Anytime that you're making special meals for them, you're playing right into their hands. So if you're being a short order cook, it makes me wonder, like, is the question really, oh, how do I get my picky eater to eat? Or do we need to start asking, how do we stop feeding our kids only what they like best, right? If we feed them only what they like best, I guarantee that is what they will eat. Okay, so you've got to start out with the end in mind. And I know some of you do this, and that's okay. Let's just try to put it in the past. I have a story about my really good friend down the street, my neighbor. She's so great. We get along wonderfully because we're both a bit sarcastic and a little rough around the edges. And she cooks mostly from scratch. One of the things she didn't was the boxed mac and cheese, okay? So I think when her daughters were about 4 and 5, let's say, she decided, I'm going to make homemade mac and cheese. Like, I know I can do this. There's tons of recipes out there. The box, we don't need this box. So she makes homemade mac and cheese. And, oh, well, you know what happened, right? The wails at the table, right? Just, oh, what is this? This is horrible. And she said, well, this is dinner. Here you go and eat it. And then a month later, she made homemade mac and cheese again. Oh, Mom, what is it? I don't want to eat this. This is dinner. Here you go. And about a month later, she tried it again. And, you know, every time she made that mac and cheese, the wailing got much less. It probably only took about 3 or 4 times until both of her girls were eating the homemade mac and cheese. And in fact, the 4-year-old, who's now like 8, she doesn't even really remember that they used to have the box in their house. Box is just what you get when you go to grandma's. So what I love about what my friend was able to do was she created a new normal. And there is a new normal out there for all of you, whether you're short order cooking, whether you just have no idea where to start. You can create a new normal just by doing it, just by creating it and not allowing your children to sabotage your plans, right? You just got to be a little more savvy and a little more stubborn than them. So my hope for you is that by the end of today, you feel really empowered to have that new normal. If you're following along on the worksheet, remember we're going to not use losing words. We're not going to be short order cooks. These are 2 ways we sabotage our children's healthy eating. In order to do so, we got to get out the eraser on those losing words and create a new normal if you've found yourself short order cooking. Sandy asks, is it bad to let them choose their breakfasts and lunches? I let them do that, but then I choose dinner. I think it's great to give kids choices, actually. I'm a huge proponent of children having choices, as long as all the choices are healthy, okay? If the choice is Lucky Charms or Fruit Loops, right? Or Lucky Charms or eggs with spinach, then you're setting your kids up to make probably the wrong choice, I'm guessing. If the choices are eggs with spinach or whole grain pancakes, boom, absolutely let the kids make their own choice. Does that make sense? So we decide what they eat. They decide how much they eat, okay? We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on, but that was a really good question, Sandy. Yeah, definitely give kids choices, but give them the right choices, right? We would never say, do you want to do your homework or not do your homework? We might say, do you want to do your homework immediately after school, or would you rather do it after dinner? Do you want to do your homework in blue pen or black pen, right? We give them choices within boundaries that make sense and that are safe for them and give them goals. Okay, the 7 strategies why you are here. And again, really quickly, by the way, if I don't answer your questions, Sonia is pulling all of those as fast as she can into a document for the Q&A time. The 7 strategies that we're going to talk about, and you don't have to write these down because we'll go into each of them one at a time. We're talking about a very important snack time rule. I will give you some literal magic phrases that will help your kids try new foods. 3 winning offers to give picky eaters. This is amazing, helps them have choices, actually, just what we were talking about. We're talking about the no clean plate club allowed. And then those top 4 are what we do to get rid of bad habits. Now that we switch to purple, the next 3 are setting up our good habits. The pregame pep talk, doing something crazy, and bridging the gap. Sarah has a very good point in the chat. I just see, she says, if you want to stop being a short order cook, you have to clue in dad. And that's so important to have any adults in the household, right? Whether you've got grandparents, spouses, everybody in the household, whether they eat right or not, they at least have to be on board with the rules you're setting for your kids, right? Like that's just good parenting, but that's a very good reminder, Sarah, that if dad doesn't know that you're making a big change, it all could go down the tubes. All right, real quick, type in the chat, are you ready for these tips? Give me a yes. Does your household need them? Give me a yes. I'm so excited to share these with you girls. Thank you so much again for being here. Number 1 is the snack time rules, okay? And you can follow along with this on the worksheet. I call the snack time rule MS90 one and done. Okay, this is really, really important. A good dinner starts at snack time, literally starts at snack time. Because if you mess up snack, you're probably going to mess up dinner. Major rule is at least 90 minutes between a meal and a snack on both sides, which means better 2 hours, by the way, better 2 hours. So that means if your kids are getting home at 4 o'clock off the bus and your normal dinner is 5:30, they do not have time for a snack. You feed children dinner and they take 2 bites and they say, I'm done, and they run off. Amen, this happens, right? And then half an hour later, they're like wandering into the kitchen going, oh, Mom, I'm so hungry. And they get to eat. They very quickly learn that dinner doesn't really mean dinner. Dinner is like a suggestion of what to eat, and they can actually eat whenever they want. Okay, so at the end of dinner, you say, oh, well, you know, if you have a really early dinner and you have a planned bedtime snack, at least 90 minutes, if not 2 hours afterward, right? And you tell the children, oh, I'm sorry, the next snack time is, this is the time. If you eat at 6, probably no time for a bedtime snack, right, moms and dads? Just say, I'm so glad that you're hungry. Let's get ready for bed, and breakfast will taste delicious, right? We have to have a sense of humor as parents, and we have to be stubborn. So if you've been having problems with snacks and dinners competing, the kids eat the snack but not dinner, I bet they're a little too close. Or you're having more than one snack between meals. That's another way you can snacks can really mess up dinner. Oh, just one snack. Kids do not need to eat all the time. One snack between meals is enough. They have to learn to eat their meals, right? And then this is really, really big. No seconds on snacks. Snack food is fun, right? Sometimes, or whatever it is. I mean, even if it's an apple. Kids like to eat snacks and they say, oh, I love this. Can I have more? And sometimes we as parents are like super well-meaning. We're like, well, that's a healthy thing. Of course, here, have some more. It can accidentally turn into a meal if we give them seconds on snacks or thirds or whatever. And then they're not hungry by the time dinner rolls around when you're serving your real, like usually veggie heavy stuff, right? So snack time rule is very, very important. At least a 90-minute buffer on both sides between a meal and a snack. Never any more than one snack between meals. If they have a snack at school after lunch, there is no such thing as an after-school snack. My neighborhood doesn't really work this way. Everybody has an after-school snack, and I say, oh, I'm sorry, my kids had a snack at 2:30. They can't have another one before dinner, and they survive. Definitely no seconds on snacks. And then, of course, if you're serving healthy options at snack, most of the time, you're going to have a huge leg up. So try to think of good, healthy snacks, and we can brainstorm some of those during the Q&A. To help you remember this, I call it MS90 one and done. MS meaning meal and snack, 90 minutes, one and done. One snack, one serving, done. Be tough on these kids' parents. Say, I'm so glad that you enjoyed that snack. We can have the same snack tomorrow. There's lots and lots of phrases you can use that make sense with the way you speak, and just pull them out the same every day. And eventually the kids will give up asking, which is what we want them to do. So yes, 90 minutes apart, one snack only. The second strategy is some magic phrases for when you're introducing a new food, okay? New foods can be a real challenge for kids and for parents. And you know what? That's okay. they're not going to like it every time. We're not here to make them like things. We're not here to make them eat things. We're here to present good, healthy food at every opportunity we can and teach them to be polite human beings. So here's our polite human being phrase. When they don't like the food, my kids are taught to say, it's not my favorite. And I will tell you that this is so surprising when other adults hear it, like when kids eat something maybe at someone else's house or at a party and they go, oh, Mom, it's not my favorite. Instead of course, what's the alternative, right? Yuck, oh, I don't like this. Oh, they're such grating, like nails on a chalkboard words for a parent. When my kids say it's not my favorite, other adults, like, their heads turn. They say, what? What did he just say? That's so sweet. That's so nice, you know? So it really is a polite human being phrase, and I encourage you to put that in your toolbox and teach your kids that if they do not enjoy something, they are always allowed to say, it's not my favorite. Now, this, of course, means that they have to have put it in their mouth, okay? Lots of people call the bite the no thank you bite, or the I'll try it bite, the first try bite. There's like a million words for this. Again, we're not going to make our kids eat everything, but it is important that kids try things. You know, research shows that you have to try a food 10 times before you like it sometimes. And so we just keep trying, even if it's a wee little bite. Not to the point of a massive power struggle, but they're not allowed to say it's not my favorite if they haven't even tried it, right? So we got to get that little no thank you bite there. And then after that, they're allowed to say no thank you to the rest. After I shared these phrases, I got a sweet email from Erin who said, you know, her 2-year-old says it's not my favorite every night. And then in the end, because it remains his choice, he eats it all. Anyway, which is so 2 years old, right? It is so a 2-year-old. If any of you have 1, 2, 3-year-olds, they're just like that. And so, but giving them that phrase and giving them the choice about whether they continue eating or not, that empowerment is indescribable. It helps children to really eat it. Ola just asked, what if they've tried it previously? Oh my goodness, yes, they need to try it again. Unless, like, you might have a select group of things, right? Like, we didn't make my oldest son try asparagus every single time he saw it for a long time. But even if you've tried it previously, you might like it now, right? My 6-year-old, I was just saying, always hated all green things, all broccoli, all spinach. He pulled it all out. All of a sudden one day on a no thank you bite, he went, I like broccoli. And we all just about fell out of our seats. You know, you can present it in different ways. You can drench those veggies in butter. You can put it in a dip or a sauce. It's really, really important for kids to understand that sometimes they might like things or dislike things rather, and later they might like them. In fact, we sometimes say, oh, you know, you might like that when you're grown up. Then, of course, they want to eat it because they want to be grown up. That's a little reverse psychology tip. But definitely continue to try always those no thank you bites. Super, super important. Some kids are truly stubborn. And I know some of you out there are thinking, yeah, whatever, Katie, like no thank you bites do not work. They will just never work for us because there's a huge power struggle. And I get that. I get that. There really are some kids who won't take a no thank you bite. However, as the parent, you have to win. This is really important. You have to be more stubborn than their kids. So here's where these really interesting 3 offers come in. The research shows that when kids have agency, which is a really fancy word for having choice and independence, that they learn better, they do more, and they just make better choices. So we're going to give these very, very stubborn kids some agency. These are the 3 offers you give your kids who absolutely refuse a no thank you bite. And again, which is only 1 bite. You say, okay, I understand that you do not want this food in your mouth today. So I need you to still do something with it. You have 3 choices. You may smell it, lick it, or taste it. Okay, and to help you remember that, we say a little salt makes everything taste better. I know I can't spell salt, but SLT, smell it, lick it, taste it. In my course, I use a lot of fun phrases to help kids remember how to be safe with knives and stoves and stuff like that. So this is your fun phrase. Smell it, lick it, taste it. A little salt makes everything taste better. And I thought of this when we had some friends' children over. We were babysitting, and they gave me the frozen pizza to make for him. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be a short order cook. I was not, I didn't show it to the parents, but I was like, inside, I was dying because I'm super against being a short order cook. However, like, I get it. This kid, this is how he lives. Okay, so I'm going to make this pizza, but it wasn't done yet. And so we put a little bite of everything we were eating on his plate. And oh, was he incensed. Oh, he did not like that stuff on his plate. And I said, you know, your pizza's not done, and you're sitting here at our table, and we want you to be with us. So this is a baby carrot. I mean, a baby carrot. That's how picky this kid was, right? I don't even know what word to use other than picky. You don't have to eat it. I said, but before I give you your pizza, I need you to smell it, lick it, or taste it. Now, this is not too sensory, right? Smelling a baby carrot, like, kids can do that, I hope. And because this kid was very, very picky. So he decided to smell it, and then he got his pizza. Now, again, I had this child in my home for a couple hours. I wasn't going to make a big impact, but it was just like something I had to try, like for myself, because I'm so anti short order cooking. So try it. Try it, you know. The worst that can happen is, I guess the worst that can happen is a power struggle, but you got to really try hard not to enter into those power struggles. Really, really important note. There are some kids for whom even licking or tasting or having on their plate are a huge issue, and it could be something more than just stubbornness, more than just behavior, and more than picky eating. So if you feel like you have a kid who's like above and beyond picky eating, I highly encourage you to read that article at the bottom, kitchenstewardship.com/SPD. SPD stands for sensory processing disorder, and that article is a very, very good and engaging and interesting story about Mary and her children who have sensory processing disorder, and how she still gets them to eat healthy food and works with and in and around the limitations that sensory processing disorder gives her children. It is inspiring, and I highly encourage reading it if your kids, especially if you feel like they're really, 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 really picky. After one of these talks, someone also emailed about smell it, lick it, taste it, and they had salmon at dinner that night, okay? One of their kids licked it, one smelled it, and one just licked it, and then decided he wanted to eat it and asked for seconds. That's the story I want you to take away here, that there's always hope, okay? Even for kids who don't even want to taste, they might just go on to enjoy the food, and that's why we've got to use our toolbox terms and be stubborn. Okay, so now we've talked about beginning the meal with the right snacks. We've given you some phrases for the middle of the meal, those no thank you bites, saying it's not my favorite. Now we got to talk about ending the meal, okay? How are we going to end the meal? If they huff away and you lose the battle, even though it's not supposed to be a power struggle, you know, that's not good. If they have to sit there staring at their plate forever because mom and dad said you have to clear your plate before you leave the table, they still, you know, you might have won the power struggle, but you haven't helped them to eat any better. Like, there's no winners there. And some kids will actually sit until bedtime with that plate. That's not good. I'm hoping that these tips will help you close out the meal and figure out when to let a kid stop eating or have more. Okay, these are some great rules. And one thing that we really want to remember as parents is that brain science tells us that when we are born, we know to eat when we're hungry and stop when we're full, okay? And we tend to unwire our brain's natural tendencies, at least as Americans, because a lot of times we eat when we're bored, right? We eat when food is there, we eat when it's presented to us, and we stop when our plate is clear. We have to stop that because our brain's natural wiring is the healthiest way to go. So no more clean plate club. Kids do not have to clear their plate before they finish. However, this does not mean that they can eat 2 bites of their favorite part of the meal and then say, may I have dessert, right? There's a lot of steps in between the clean plate club and moving right on to, say, dessert or another snack or whatever. And here are some of your toolbox terms. We always tell our kids you need to finish your firsts before having seconds, okay? And this is big for those of you whose kids love certain things but not others, right? They look at a plate and it maybe has a roll and a vegetable and a meat and potatoes, okay? And they're going to eat their roll, they're going to eat their meat, and they're going to say, can I have another roll? And you give them another roll, and then they're done, right? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Same thing, we always had that problem with soup. We'll serve like soup and a homemade biscuit. And the kids, they eat their biscuit. Can I have another biscuit? Your spoon is clean. Have you touched your soup? No. Well, then you need to finish your first before having seconds. Okay, and this is a phrase that you don't have to think about. Once you can memorize it, your kids will get used to it. It means, sure, eat the roll first. That's fine, but you can't have another roll unless you actually eat the rest of your plate. And if you don't like the rest of your plate, I will see you at the next snack or meal. Right? This is where the boundaries are set. You stick to them, and the kids can bang around inside it and decide how much they eat and what they eat, but they can't like move on to dessert, for example, without making a good attempt. If you've got a kid who would get full on that one roll, you guys give them a quarter of a roll. Okay, 1 piece of broccoli, 3 bites of meat, a quarter of a roll, or an eighth of a roll, and a plop of mashed potatoes, if that's your plate, for like a 2-year-old, let's say. Well, that 2-year-old's going to eat that roll, but I bet that they will be tempted by something else too before the meal is over. I like to tell my kids it's good to know when you're full, okay? Because when they say, I'm full, I say, okay, that's fine. It's really good to know when you're full, and it's good to stop. Again, I don't want to unwire their brain's tendency towards satiation. Now, what does that mean about desserts and snacks? You know what I'm going to say about snacks? Okay, they've got to be at least 90 minutes away. Well, doggone, what does that mean about dessert? Well, full means full, is what I tell my kids. If they're literally say that they're full of dinner, can I have a dessert? Oh, I'm so sorry, honey. If you're full, that dessert is going to hurt your belly, and I can't do that to you. Okay, do you see how that works? So they need to think of some other words maybe for full. My little 3-year-old, he'll say, I'm satisfied with dinner. May I have a dessert? And then, then we have to figure out like, well, you've eaten at least half of your meal. The only time I have my kids finish things, and this is just me, like not everyone loves this rule, but this is to me a good stewardship thing, because I do see kids like heaping their plates at potlucks and then throwing it all away. And I just don't think that's a good habit for my own kids. So if a child serves themselves, if they serve themselves seconds, let's say, or if they serve a huge portion, then I say, now you chose this, you need to finish it, or let's save it for lunch tomorrow or whatever. And again, that's just me and like my sense of stewardship, that kids need to begin to understand how hungry they are and in proper portion sizes. Sarah has a common question, a child who will flat out refuse to eat when presented with things they don't want. She's got a 4-year-old who's gone over 24 hours without taking a single bite to eat because he wouldn't eat the eggs he asked for. That is a very tricky one, Sarah. I would encourage you to read about sensory processing disorder and just see if there's something there. Some people say, bring that egg back, bring that egg back, bring that egg back. At some point, you may need to offer, you're the mom, you got to offer something else, but doggone, make it healthy. Don't make it crunchy crackers or goldfish when that egg won't come back, And +4 is in that super picky phase. So I have faith, Sarah, that is a very stubborn child, but I think you can still be more stubborn than that child within reason, right? So offer some pea pods or some carrots, or right, like always thinking about those healthy foods and those healthy ideas. Okay, so that's the first 4 strategies, lots of really practical things. I want to hear in the chat which phrase from those first 4 is your favorite. What are you going to pull out of your toolbox at the very next dinner? And then I just want to remind you that, again, those first 4 are like the problem-solving strategies. We're preventing bad habits. And after I hear from you in the chat, we'll get to move on to some of the good habits. So with these phrases, we're building a toolbox. You have all these different tools and different ideas at your disposal to be the best parent that you can be. And this isn't, of course, incredibly comprehensive. There are lots of other ways that parents can tackle meals, and I encourage you to think of your own too, right? Figure out the appropriate boundaries that you want to set in your house, and think of some toolbox phrases that you can use. Oh, I love seeing those come in. Those are so great. Thank you, ladies. So number 5, I call this the pre-game pep talk. We're going to talk about what you can do to encourage healthy eating before you even get to the table. Now, studies show and experience confirms that when kids are involved with food, when they're, preparing it, choosing it, planning it, buying it, growing it, whatever, they're more likely to try new things and more likely to feel positive about their options. This is not a magic sauce. Not all children who make the food will eat the food. There are still stubborn children out there, and I know some of you have experienced that firsthand as well. But anything we can do to increase our chances, moms, we got to do it, right? So we're talking about cooking together. Now, I'm a teacher of an online cooking class, so we're going to spend a little more time on this one because I think it's that important. I've got 2 more strategies for you, but we're going to sit here on this one for a little bit. It's not always that easy getting kids into the kitchen. I know in the poll, 20% of you said you just don't know where to start. 19% of you said, oh man, kids slow me down. It drives me nuts. And so I'm going to try to give you some strategies to make this, a little bit easier for you. It's a little harder than just being more stubborn than your kid, getting them into the kitchen. It's a whole big strategy. Partly because, myself included, a lot of parents tend to make a very big mistake when they invite their kids into the kitchen. So the biggest mistake that parents make is actually totally mental. And it has to do with misunderstanding their child's abilities. This is on the worksheet again. With little ones, a lot of times we assume they can do more than they really can do. Okay, we get frustrated because we say, oh, can you measure this? And they make a mess, or they measure it not flat, they stir and they slop stuff out. And we're kind of expecting them to do more. Like, if you ever want to know how poor your child's small motor skills are, have them brush your teeth, and you'll quickly learn why they can't measure flat and why they're slopping stuff all over when they stir. This is my 2.5-year-old brushing my teeth, and woo, did he make me gag. Okay, so really, like, try that just to remind your poor head, because, we're born knowing nothing. We have to teach everything to these children. And luckily, the antidote to this big mistake for parents is very, very easy. We just need to slow down and lower our expectations for these little ones. We've got to find, the right target for our expectations. We have to remember that they have to learn everything by experience. And when you work with kids of this age in the kitchen, we're going to talk about it more in just a couple slides. I want you to think small. Break down those skills into the smallest steps you can possibly think of so that you can really teach them step by step. Even something as simple as spreading peanut butter on bread or celery, like this picture. Now, on the flip side, that big mistake also applies to our older kids, our elementary age kids. For these kids, we tend to underestimate what they can do, okay? We're still usually just kind of co-baking with them and letting them stir and letting them dump spices in. But if you think about the changes in a kindergartner's reading and writing and speech and a second grader's reading and writing and speech, it's vast. And we tend to forget that sometimes in other areas of life, like chores and, cleaning your room and cooking your food. So for these kids, we often, parents, have to raise our expectations, but also, of course, teach in a really kid-friendly manner. A little story about the kid-friendly. This picture is from our course, and it's from our rice cooking lesson. And throughout the intermediate level, which is what these girls are, 7 through 10 or so, 6 through 10, we really want them to have some independence. So we teach a lesson where we say, I am not going to touch anything while you make this recipe. And, I talk about our fun phrases and how they help kids remember stuff. It was so funny. Just a few months ago, my oldest two, Paul and Leah, they're now 12 and 9, but when we filmed the course, they were 9 and 7, so it was a while ago. And I was teaching them to make homemade pizza. This is beautiful. They're allowing me to volunteer for our high school youth ministry at church every other Sunday because my big kids make homemade pizza every other Sunday, right? So I was teaching them this recipe, and then they did it again by themselves. And I, reached in to try to help, and they go, "Oh, Mom, you're not supposed to touch anything." And they were like giggling with each other, and I was like, oh, like it worked. They really remembered it. And also my son and daughter were laughing and having a good time. And so, score big for Mom on that one. I loved that. But as long as we can teach in a really kid-friendly manner, those 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, ooh, they can do so much more than you expect. To teach in a kid-friendly manner, I'm gonna sneak out of the course my 3-step process that some members have called their superpower for you guys. And the 3-step process that we use is kind of based on the Montessori system, if you're familiar with that at all. And it just means that parents are going to, for any new cooking skill, demonstrate first, then guide, and then coach to independence. It's about taking it piece by piece and not really having like a time box. That's really important too. Don't try to teach your kids something new when dinner has to be on the table at a certain time. It's just a total attitude shift in how you work with your kids. So let's break these down a little bit. Step 1 is demonstrate. This means we're not going to give the kids tools right away. And by doing that, we set them up for success, not mess. If the kids have tools in their hands, their ears are not working very well. Okay, so I have the tool, or you have the tool, and you're going to demonstrate whatever skill you want them to learn, and you're going to talk through it step by step in as small of a steps as possible, and then you give them the tool. I call this the hand-on-hand technique, and so I use this a lot with like cracking eggs, stirring, cutting with sharp knives or dull knives, and really any age kid, but especially your younger kids, your ages like 2 to 7. When you're baking with those little kids, have your hand over the child or theirs over yours. So in this picture, you can see my daughter's hands are over mine. And so that's what I would do anytime I was baking with my little ones. Like, again, 3 and 4, they're not really quite ready to crack the eggs. You know how that goes if you try. but I'll have them put their hand on mine and I crack the eggs. This helps them understand how much pressure to use because it's really hard to see that. And then I put my thumbs in the bullseye and I say, put your thumbs over my thumbnails, and I push in and pull out, right? So anytime a kid is starting a new skill or having trouble with a skill, try putting your hand on theirs or their hand on yours, and then you can really feel from each other what kind of troubleshooting needs to be done. That's step 2. Then step 3 we call coach to independence. Okay, once a child has learned a skill, we are going to stay close. Okay, we're not going to walk away. Again, some of the worksheet answers are across the bottom on the slides here. It's important not to just say, okay, great, this kid has learned a skill, now make dinner. We're going to stay close, and just like a coach would have lots of practices and would watch and listen to see where the child might need a little redirection, okay? Instead of using your hand, now you're just going to use your voice to try to remind the kids of their appropriate technique and what they need to do. But we really need to stay close, and this is important so that kids don't get bad habits right away, right? Because you know what happens if you practice something wrong a bunch, you've built a bad habit. And so it's really important as kids are learning new skills to watch closely, watch for those bad habits and nip them in the bud, and then keep them safe, right? And they know that you're right there. So think about your kids. Think about your littles, your mediums, your bigs. What skill can you think of in the kitchen that you think they're ready for, that you want to start guiding, demonstrate, guide, and coach to independence for one of your kids? If you want to type that in the chat, that's awesome. Sometimes when we write down a goal, we're more likely to do it just because we feel we've committed to it. My hint for you is, man, just do it this week. Do it this weekend when you get a chance. It's really good. It's really good for kids to be working in the kitchens with mom and dads. I can't wait to see what you guys think about these goals. I have a little sneak peek at something that I'm going to give to you. I have a gift for you. For the next 5 days, I'm going to let all of you have access to our 10-minute knife skills and knife safety class. So you'll get a chance to hopefully teach this with your kids. You'll have it throughout the weekend. So grab 10 minutes, grab a kid, grab a knife and some vegetables, and we'll do this. I'm going to share this video. Let me see if it'll show up real quick. I'm going to show you just about a minute of the knife skills class, and this is the review at the end. All the classes have all the kids in it. This is just my hand doing the review, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about our 3 safe ways to hold food and 4 ways to hold the knife. So we call this hey, out of the way. You can see my hand is far on the end of the carrot. And then this one we call up and over soldier, so that the fingers are on both sides. This is for kind of cutting sticks of things. Top chop is the way to get your hand out of the way on the top, and we teach kids this. Again, all these ways to keep kids' hands away from the blade of the knife. And then the way you move the knife, we have 4 fun phrases that kids can remember. Rockabye knife is one we have fun with, and we sing Rockabye Baby and stuff. And then drive it like a vacuum. This is kind of your classic chef's knife move of pushing the knife through the food. Saw blade is good for any size and shape of knife, things like cantaloupe or soft things like this tomato. And then tug a war pull, zoop, like that, is for like celery sticks, cucumber sticks, carrot sticks, all that stuff. Again, these are the phrases that you will have access to for over the weekend, and I'm so excited to share this with your kids. Let's see, I got to turn on. There's a link you can follow, but of course, stay here. Stay here and finish the presentation. We will email out this link after the presentation is over a couple times, and I'll remind you to teach it over the weekend. But I'm really excited to share that with you, so you can just get your kids in the kitchen and do some cutting. Make sure you stay until the end, because we've got some tips on what kinds of foods you cut, and the type of knife you give your kid has as much to do with success as any of these fun phrases and safety techniques. So again, you'll have that for 5 days. You can click the offer and kind of open it in a new tab, and we will email that out to you soon after the presentation. I would love to hear from you in the chat. One last thing here. Do you ever have trouble working with your kids in the kitchen because you don't always like how it turns out? Just type yes or no in the chat. And also, do you know that feeling where you just aren't sure how to go about teaching the kitchen work to the kiddos? Type me in the chat, because those are, I think, really common. People just don't quite know where to start. Alicia, you'll have access to the full knife skills video, so you'll be able to catch up on the first 3 tips. Other parents find the same things. They don't know where to start, and it's just sometimes difficult to get in the kitchen with their kids. But with this knife skills class, parents have the best experience they've ever had. After one video, they see their kids' knife skills are very much improved. And even for parents who don't know where to start, kids are cutting up avocados, lettuce, and fruit salad after just this one class. So again, super excited to share that with you. Sometimes people ask, why bother? If it's so difficult, you know, if it's tough, you don't know where to start, or you need more tips. And this is my little Gabe. This is last fall, and I just have a story to tell you about something that happened last fall. We were rushing off to Bible study at church one morning, and it was, you know, it was kind of late mid-fall. We were getting our winter coats on and getting all bundled up, and I had my tea in my hand and my Bible study bag, and I had his water bottle or something. Like, my hands were really full. And we have one big cement step, like one step and then another down into our garage. And I'm thinking about a million things and how I'm so late. Like, it's pretty much time for study to start, and it's a 7-minute drive. And I kind of just like, okay, Gabe, let's go. We're going to get in the car. Be careful on the step. And I touched him a little bit, like I was going to guide him, but I wasn't, like, I didn't really have the hands to help him. All of a sudden, he jumps. Like, and he's only 2. He jumps to go, like, into the garage. And I'm like, my hands are completely full. I think he was expecting me to hold his hands and fly him like Superman. And there's no way that I could help him. And all I could do was just kind of watch him fall, and kind of, he twisted sideways, kind of landed on his back, and his eyes were as big as saucers, staring up at me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to, like, set everything down to help him. And I'd just been reading some parenting books about how you're just supposed to empathize with your child when they're hurt. So everything in me is wanting to scream, why did you jump? But I'm like, be a good parent, Katie. And I'm going, are you hurt? And he shakes his head no, or he points at his arm, and yeah, I'm hurt right here. And he landed on his coat, praise be to God, these, like, you know, big winter coat. And I just thought, gosh, does your head hurt? Does your hand hurt? Are you okay? And I said, I know it's scary to fall. I know I'm trying to, like, be the good parent and use all the phrases. And again, inside, I'm just like, why did you jump? And so finally, I just can't help it. I realize he's fine. He's not bleeding. He's just shaking. He's crying buckets, you know. And finally, why did you jump? I couldn't help it. I just had to say it. And he's sobbing. He just says, I didn't want to touch the floor because it's cold. And I'm like, what? I'm so confused. Like, why would the garage floor be cold? And I look at his feet. No boots. No shoes. No, just cute little C-3PO socks and cold toes. I know some of you have probably had that happen to you. We don't remember everything. But I sure sent him out unprepared, didn't I? And I couldn't catch him. I wasn't in a place to catch him when he decided on his own solution to get over the garage floor that was cold. And there are so many things our kids need. And this is what, you know, my heart desires for you guys, is that we don't want to be sending our 18-year-old young adults out into the real world as unprepared as Gabe was that morning. Okay? If they don't know how to cook, they might jump into the frozen food aisle. They might be relying on ramen noodles, or they might spend all their money on takeout. And I know that's not what you want for your kids, and it's not what I want for your kids either. You know, those poor kids might try to create their own solution and get frustrated because we're not there to catch them. So for you, I really want your kids to be able to learn to cook, and I want to empower you to get them in that kitchen because it will help them to be independent in life, but also to eat better. There is more to come. We've got 2 more strategies. 7 minutes. I'm going to talk fast. And we're going to talk a little bit about some knife skills, but I'm hoping that this is okay with you. Can I have permission to share about this thing that I'm really excited about getting kids in the kitchen? Just for a couple minutes. I've got to tell you a little bit more. It's not all that often as parents that we get gratitude from our kids. And that's why I loved this story from a member. Anne sent this and said that her 9-year-old boy, after they did their first cooking class, which is this beautiful picture of all the ages working together. I wish we could do cooking class every day, the 9-year-old said. And the 12-year-old boy thanked her and gave her a hug. This is what I want for you guys too. Hugs and thank yous from your kids. We warmly invite you to join us as a member of our course. We've got all sorts of goodies for you today. What you will get is, of course, basic skills for your kids. to make almost any recipe they find, and we will teach them to love eating healthy foods. We've got videos for all age levels, PDF lesson plans, the 30 basic skills taught. I really do think the value is priceless because it empowers your kids to make any recipe they find. We, of course, do have recipes in the class, checklists, shopping lists. The value of our course altogether encapsulated is actually $195 if each of those were evaluated by themselves. But it does not sell for that much. That's coming soon. This little boy, Aidan, is actually special needs, and he loved cooking. And so his mom joined our cooking class, and it turned out that the lessons were perfect for him. The basic skills and the repetition are exactly what he needed and what mom couldn't do on her own. I was so happy to fill that gap for her. She says that he not only has confidence that he can do it himself or with a little bit of help, but he's starting to plan menus for his daily meals. And just what a beautiful picture. I almost need a tissue every time I look at that one. For those kids who only like the boxed food, this mom's preteen daughter, Amy's preteen daughter, was mad because she wouldn't buy the processed rice-a-roni. And then she made her own rice-a-roni in our course and said, it tastes just like the box. What a score. And Amy admitted that she learned a thing or two herself. Parents tell me that a lot too. So if you don't know how to cook, you guys, this is your solution because you can totally learn along with your kids. And I'm happy to be that teacher for you. Today, I mentioned that it's a $195 value, but we're also adding a new set of videos on healthy breakfast, which is a $20 value. That's free until March 7th. We just started our bonus period yesterday, so you guys have a little bit of time to make the decision. And you get to teach as many kids as you want, which is the best thing, right? Like if you get a cooking class in person, you have to pay per kid. So we're going to take that $215 value, multiply that by how many kids you have or how many you can invite. Have the neighbors over, have the cousins over, use it in a homeschool co-op, you guys. I just want kids to learn to cook. So the license is for as many kids as you can possibly teach. And just to recap, all those videos, all those lesson plans, recipe ebooks, checklists, shopping lists, of course, the pinnacle of your kids' cooking meals, and the reason you're here, eating healthy food, those bonus breakfast videos. The value is $215, but we actually sell all those bundled up for 12 months for $79.95. That's not actually our most popular package, though, because we also have a VIP package. And if you give me about 2 minutes, I would love to show you a little bit about the VIP here. The VIP is very popular, I think, because it adds lifetime access, okay? After 12 months, nothing expires. And so if you've got a 3-year-old, you can teach them the next level when they're 6 and the next level when they're 9 for no extra cost. You know, you can just keep it forever. It's all at your own pace. We have a private Facebook group, which gives extra support and tips, questions for me, and people like to share pictures of their kids doing stuff. That's a wonderful place for camaraderie, and that's a $20 value. We've got an extra class. This is actually one of my favorite classes because it shows little kids, like 2-year-olds, how to carry their plates well, setting and washing the table. That's another $20 in our VIP level. Last summer, we added an Instant Pot basic skills video that takes some of the skills we teach in the main class and show you how to do those in an Instant Pot. And then we have a really cool blooming spices video from another course. Courtney was kind enough to let us use this for our VIPs. And for parents, this is not a course for kids, but for parents, the Fast and Fresh Kitchen Success course is actually a $99 value. So the VIP very quickly ticks up this value. All of these ebooks and downloads are available. They're usually between $5 and $10. These are mostly full-length ebooks, so you can kind of build your own recipe collection. And there's about almost $100 on the screen right now. So again, VIP is most popular by far. And I think it's because it has that $300 additional value added onto the $215. It makes it over a $500 value, which is way too much for families to spend. Way too much. Access never expires, but it's still too much. $500 is too much for your families. But for all of this, I'm not even going to read. I don't even know. Can I read all this? Plus the bonus breakfast videos. The VIP price is actually $119.95. I want to make this really doable. I really want kids to cook. I want these lesson plans to be used. I want these videos to be watched. I want the Facebook group to be booming with people, and it is. We've got over 6,000 members from around the world. Now, if you're thinking about being in the class, you want to know, what are you going to get? Now, if all this class did was get your kids to help, like Jenny says here, would it be worth it? If all the class did was give you a little extra time in your day that you didn't think you had because those kids are helping, would that be worth it? If all it did was show you, man, how amazingly capable your kids are beyond your dreams, like Rachel says, would that be worth it? I think so. And this mom agrees that it was worth every penny. And even she's a teacher, so she knows like how much detail. I've mentioned I'm a perfectionist, and I did put a ton of time and effort into making this course just exactly perfect for families. Just in case. Now, I know you'll love it, but just in case, I like to reassure people that there is a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you get in, if you try it, and it's just not a good fit, if your kids don't like it, this doesn't happen often, and we have a really, really, really low return rate, but it's there to make you comfortable, because I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable with this decision to join us to jump in and teach their kids to cook. We want to be super excited about it. And then just to wet your whistle a little bit, here are some pictures of the food that we make. And if you're thinking, yeah, you know what, I don't know that my kid would eat that food, that's what the last two tips are for. Sorry, I'm trying to turn something on while I'm talking here. I want to just make sure that that offer is available to you. You can, this is the bonus period through March 7th. For everything we just talked about. I think that offer will be showing up for the free bonuses. You can click over at any time, and then we'll remind you a little bit over the next week or two before that bonus period runs out. Now, if you don't think the kids will eat that food, tip number 6 is to do something crazy. And this one is pretty fun. Remember, I know it's 2 o'clock, doggone it. I'm going to talk fast through these last two, and I will stay for Q&A as long as people need it. Again, Sonia's pulling all your questions aside to me, both about the course and about teaching kids to cook and about helping kids eat well. Doing something crazy can surprise your kids, your picky eaters, into eating something they wouldn't usually eat. I remember once when I had a little toddler, probably 12 or 14 months, and we were at grandma's house, so we didn't have his high chair, and he was kind of running around as he ate. And so I was just getting a scoop, and I was like putting it in his mouth. I was getting a scoop and putting it in his mouth. And my 6-year-old came up to ask me a question, and I got a scoop, and she opened her mouth, asked a question, whoop, like in went the spoon. Oh my gosh, did we have a good laugh about that? The point is, she ate something she wasn't planning to eat. And so sometimes the element of surprise can be a great toolbox trick for parents. This can also help you get kids to sit at the table. If you say, if everyone sits at the table for the next 3 days, we will have a little fun right on day 4. For example, using toothpicks or skewers or straws to eat everything. This picture actually of me on the news, I'm getting a straw out to drink blended soup instead of a spoon, and the anchor's like, what? He thought that was a good idea. Eating dinner under the table might just be crazy enough. A picnic in the living room, just eating by candlelight can be enough of a surprise to get kids to focus on their food. And then a couple ideas for just goofy meals, right? Having a one-color food meal. Everything's red, everything's green, everything's white, whatever. And then a silly meal. This picture is a meal of all muffins. Those are meat muffins, mashed potato muffins, rice muffins, and grain-based muffins. You know, we kind of had lots of food groups, but all in muffins. And we've done the same with pancakes. So curious to hear in the chat if you've done anything out of the ordinary that made a positive impact. I think we learn a lot from each other. And if you do want more ideas, big hat tip to Kresha Faber from Nourishing Joy on this one. She and I did a great interview that you can find at kitchenstewardship.com/surprise-picky. The last tip, number 7, I call bridge the gap. Okay, so pizza is one of those foods that kids tend to love, like that picture, they're all reaching for the pizza. And so bridging the gap has to do with taking that pizza and thinking, what can I connect to this pizza that will be healthier for my kids? That's the blue question mark. And so here are some ideas, right? Here's an example of bridging the gap with pizza. You're going to imagine a brick path from that food they love, in this case pizza, but it could be chicken nuggets, it could be pasta, whatever, to something new, and really think about baby steps. So for pizza, oh, whoops, forgot about my slide. Your job is to bridge from what they already eat to what you want them to eat. Okay, so what could that be? For pizza, one thing I might start with is just a one new topping on the pizza, sneaking it in there. Okay, or even having the kid just say, we're going to include something new today and you can choose it. Here's a list of 5. You don't have to be sneaky. Like, I don't advocate lying to the children, but it's good to really encourage them to try new things. And so putting something new on that pizza they love, maybe making some homemade pizza, okay? Those top pictures are wonderful homemade pizza. Now, there's mushrooms in there. Do my kids eat mushrooms? No. But I could bridge to small chopped up mushrooms and just say, you know what, we're going to eat it. I mean, who wouldn't eat that pizza in the middle? So trying a homemade crust, moving that up to maybe a whole grain crust. That crust in the middle is a chickpea flour crust. So it's actually really high protein and low carb. Then bridge that crust to another kind of dough. Those rolls in the corner are the rolls that we make in beginner class 8 in our course. And just kind of like thinking about what are all the steps that we can do. Of course, getting the kids involved increases your chances that they'll eat it. So that's why that picture is in there. And then some other things, I actually just searched for pizza in my pictures, and look at all the things that I make that taste like pizza. That's a pizza pasta salad. There's a pizza egg quiche, pizza meat muffins, and the bottom right is a pizza hash with eggs on top. They really do taste like pizza. Like, my kids, oh man, they complain when that pizza hash comes out. But if we can get them to take their no thank you bite, they go, oh yeah, I forgot, this does taste like pizza. And then I don't have a picture of it because it's so simple, you guys, but pizza veggies, okay? Dump in some frozen veggies, half a jar of pasta sauce, some extra oregano to make it taste like pizza, and mozzarella cheese on the top. Okay, super, super simple way to present vegetables, and they really do kind of taste like pizza. And if you say they're pizza veggies, you know, again, you're greasing the chute, not for the pickiest of eater, but for those kids who are like, meh, veggies, I don't know. Pizza veggies go down a lot easier. This is where your creativity has to come in, moms. It's just you thinking, what do my kids eat? And how can I take that one step closer, right, to something healthy? Recapping always improves our memory. So here are those 7 strategies one more time for you. The MS-90 one and done snack time rule: create that buffer on either side of a meal by at least 90 minutes, only one snack, never seconds. Those magic phrases like, it's not my favorite, and you need to take a no thank you bite. The 3 winning offers to give picky eaters is that salt that makes everything taste better. Smell it, lick it, or taste it. No more clean plate clubs. We're not going to make our kids finish. However, we do need them to finish their firsts before having seconds. And then that pregame pep talk. We got to get those kids in the kitchen, moms and dads. You can totally do this. Do something a little crazy to surprise them into eating. And oops, I edited this, sorry. Bridge the gap is supposed to be the last one. I've got to edit my PowerPoint again. I told you I switched out that last one. I think Bridge the Gap is much more compelling and powerful and effective than the old one was. If you have a minute, type in the chat what your favorite one was. That always helps me. And I don't want you to be terrified to let kids in the kitchen like this gal Kate was. She was terrified. But even after a couple lessons, her older kids are already more confident in the kitchen, and she's more confident. Again, that is the gift I really want to give you today. Quick reminder, you will get that knife skills video, 10 minutes long, and I'm going to include in the email some knife tips, about 3 minutes of me like demonstrating and talking to you. I used to do this on this presentation, but obviously it's 7 minutes after the hour. It's just too long. So immediately after this, I will be uploading those tips to kidscookrealfood.com/knife tips. By the time you get the email, they'll be ready, hopefully. Again, changing it all the time. But what to cut, this is on your worksheet. Hold on to that. What to cut's really important. Little ones need only soft things for their butter knife. Middle-sized kids need soft and semi-soft things that are capable of being cut with a paring knife. And then big kids can do anything, but start them out with celery and carrots, things that are long and not going to roll away, long so that their hand can be on one end. Then they can move on to the tougher stuff like melons, onions, and peppers that may roll away, right? So it's just all about building step by step. For you today, many, many gifts. I just want to remind you that knife skills class for 5 days. Get those kids in the kitchen. Through March 7th, we have those free extra videos for all new members, $20 value of healthy breakfast. They're such fun videos. With all of our classes, you can work at your own pace, and we try to make it easy. You can pay with PayPal or credit card. Again, that $500 VIP is $119. $95. And if even that feels like a little much for your family right now, remember the PayPal Bill You Later gives no payments for 6 months. So that's always an option through PayPal to make it a little bit easier. And here is what my hope is for you, okay? Family, togetherness, quality time. That mom is doing her Bible study while her children make her dinner. Oh yes, that is my hope for you. And then look at those kids. They're so empowered making their muffins, their pancakes, and their veggie sautés. These are real members who allowed me to use their pictures, and I'm very grateful for them. Quick reminder of the happiness guarantee. You've got 30 days, and we don't give many refunds, but we are totally fine with giving them if you need it. You can find all of that at kidscookrealfood.com. And I will, again, I'll send you emails with the knife skills. Now, oh my goodness, I gotta find my, there I am. Okay, I gotta find my questions. Oh, so many questions coming in. And then I could see people talking and I couldn't read them all or else I would have stumbled over all my words. Again, Sarah, if you're here from Early Bird Mom, go ahead and raise your hand and you can join us for the chat. So many good questions. Looks like I've got almost 10 from the presentation. Luckily, a lot of the questions that came in before we started, I hope, did get answered during the presentation. And that's always what I try to do, is give you a ton of value. We've got a mom who's on right now. 8-year-old eater, only eats PB&J and bread, sometimes apples, eggs, and hamburger. She doesn't short order cook. Bravo for Jenny. But they do let her make her own food, and she does for pretty much every meal. Please help. I would say, okay, so remember we talked about those no thank you bites. Smell it, lick it, taste it. It's going to be an intervention, right? Because you have this routine set up, Jenny, that your child is allowed to make her own food, and that's fine. But if you want her to bridge out of that, you're going to have to say, okay, you are still allowed to make your own food after X. You decide the X. I would say the smell it, lick it, taste it on everything. I would put 1 bite of everything that you're serving at that meal on her plate. And she has to smell, lick, and taste every one. That'd be where I would start. So I would say you and if you have a husband in the home, a dad, you guys should get together and talk like what is going to be what we're willing to stick with. Right? What is the hill upon which we're willing to die? Because once you start it, you got to stick with it. And then once she's smell, okay, then she can do it. And just try to like encourage her and extend that encouragement a little bit every week. There is hope. I guarantee there is hope. Because that's still, I mean, apples, eggs, hamburger, PB&J, that's a lot of different flavors. Maybe do some of that bridging too, right? What else can we have in our eggs? What can we dip our apples in? And just getting some different food groups in there. I have total hope for you, Jenny. And if you have any follow-up questions, I'm here. Valerie says, my 13-year-old was so interested about cooking until this year. She was up to making souffles, but now she won't even help. Oh, the teenage years. The teenage years are very tough. I would say for any kid who used to be interested and who has the skills, see if they'll help for a party, because there is nothing that builds kids' motivation and self-esteem than like a genuine reason to cook. Okay, and so serving to other adults at like a party or a potluck will give her the opportunity to kind of show off her skills. But again, like with 13-year-olds, man, you got to be so chill. Not like, I'd like you to cook, so therefore we're going to have a party, but you know, be real creative about how you present it. We're going to have this party. Maybe if you have other kids, like who can sign up for what, put the souffle on there. Hopefully she'll sign up, and keep praying. This will end in 5 years when she's 18, right? 13-year-olds, man, that's so tough. I have a 13-year-old next month. Okay, Natalie admits she's a short order cook, but because her child has a food allergy, that is very tricky. We're not willing to cut out dairy for the entire family, so the toddler is used to getting a completely different meal. One of my writers, Mary, has kids with like all sorts of allergies, and so she would have a lot to say about this. I would encourage you to read some of her posts at Kitchen Stewardship, Natalie, but I would say at least maybe every other night or at least a certain number of times a week, see if you can figure out what main dishes can have dairy on the side, right? The cheese can be left off and just melted on top of each individual, but everyone has like the same base. Does that make sense? So if you can make the base meal allergy friendly for your whole family, and then add in the dairy. And I know sometimes you just want cream of soup, or you know what I mean? Like sometimes you're just going to have dairy, but I would say try really hard. And at the toddler years, it's like totally not too late to change this habit, to try really hard to have many meals where the base is the same for the whole family, and the dairy is just a topping or a side or an addition that you can add to like one casserole and not the other, or something like that. I hope that helps, Natalie. My 8-year-old is so convinced he hates everything. When I can finally get him to try something, he doesn't really give it an honest try. How can I change that? Oh, Sarah, that's such a tough one. Goodness. I really think getting him involved in cooking will help, because then he'll see just kind of how it all goes together. I see Andrea had a good question. I lost it. I'll find it. I'll find Andrea's question. So getting him involved in cooking, I really think is going to be a big help for that one. And then again, and just not having it be a power struggle. Like if your attitude is super chill and just like, oh, try it. And like, if he tries it, be like, oh, it's not your favorite. Okay. And just like let him roll through it. But if you keep having him try things, like eventually you win. It might take 2 years, but eventually he'll realize that food actually is good. Social eating can really help with that too, like having other kids over who like things. Tips for squashing the dessert entitlement. I'm not sure how this happened to us. They ask for dessert every night. Sarah, my kids do too. My kids do too, and that's tough. Sometimes you have to just remove dessert for a couple of weeks just to reset the system. Sometimes you put dessert at a different time of day. But again, the same thing with dessert. Like we have pretty strict rules. Like you have to have eaten an appropriate amount. It doesn't have to be clean plate, but an appropriate amount. You have to have tasted everything. And then when the kids say, "Can I have dessert?" we look at them and they go, "May I be excused, please?" "Yes, you may." They take their dish in, then they come back, then they have to clear part of the table, and then they ask for dessert. So they're still kind of entitled, but like it feels a little better for me. So maybe some of those tips will help you too, Sarah. And then Ivy's daughter is 11, and she tries to rush ahead and grabbing at everything, and then Ivy gets frustrated. Totally normal. Well, first of all, I would say use our videos in the classes because they're awesome. But if you're not becoming a member, at least try these knife skills classes and do the demonstrate, right? Don't give your daughter the tool until she's watched me on the video or watched you do it. And I think that will help you feel a lot better about then letting her go, right? Once she has the skills, then you can let her go and no blowing the top. Favorite brand of knife is a good one. We have a resources page at kitschenstewardship.com/KCRF resources, and I'll drop that into the chat. Victorinox is actually a really good, inexpensive brand that is awesome for the size of kids' hands. So that I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's probably one of the best for kids. And then Ivy says that she's nervous about the stove, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but in our course in Class 5 Intermediate, we actually teach kids how to use the stove, and the biggest trick is that we do it first with it off. We do all the skills of how you work at the stove with it off. And so if you're scared about the stove, get the class. But if you're not going to become a member, at least practice it with your kids with the stove off. A couple of questions about pricing and what's in the class. So first of all, the class is created around 30 basic skills, and I really focused hard on the skills, not particular recipes or foods, because it's really important to me that all kids, even kids with allergies or special diets, can access our classes, right? So if you're vegetarian or gluten-free or paleo, it shouldn't matter. There might be a few classes you would switch out with another skill or just skip. There are 32 videos, but most of the time, like everything really fits, and it's a lot of fruits and vegetables, and knife skills are 8 out of the 32. So they'll fit everyone. And then the pricing is such that you can get one level, beginner, intermediate, or advanced, for about $40. And so that would be like if you just have a preschooler, you could get the beginner level for $39.95. You can get all 3 levels, buy 2 for the price, or buy 3 for the price of 2, $79.95, and that's for 12 months. Both of those are for a year. You can work on them anytime throughout that year. After a year, your access does expire. And then if you want to keep it forever and get all those other VIP bonuses, right, that $500 value, that's when it's $119.95. Then you get to keep it all forever. So that's a pretty good deal. And then if you want to see what's in the VIP, kidscookrealfood.com. has all the information on there, all those VIP bonuses and kind of the breakdown. So definitely, I know this is it's a big purchase, it's a big decision. Definitely talk about it with spouses, check the budget, and watch that knife skills class. Like try that with your kids, see how it goes. My hope, what I think will happen is that your kids will love it and you'll love it and you'll just want more. But that's why, I want to give you some stuff to start with. Tips for a picky 15-month-old who won't eat veggies or meat. Alicia, this is all about preparing the space, right? Don't get those snacks too close to the meal. Give that 15-month-old one bite of everything. Filling up on grains is a huge problem for that age because their bellies are so tiny. So if that 15-month-old gets half a piece of bread, man, he or she doesn't have to eat meat or veggies. So I would just say one bite of each and then let it go on the high chair or on the table or whatever you're serving on. So no power struggles, but just always serve what you want them to eat and then allow them to make the choice. 15 months is really young. Tastes will change a ton over the next couple years on that. Rachel wanted a clarification on a no thank you bite. So a no thank you bite is literally one bite. It's we're having, these 3 items at dinner and the child says, I don't want that one. You say, that's fine. You may say no thank you after you take one bite because then you know whether you want it or not. And then here, let's see, this family, Alicia always has a bedtime snack, usually something small, but we eat dinner at 6:30 or 7. They're more motivated to eat their dinner if snack is on the line. Oh man, that's so hard. I know, my kids are more motivated to eat dinner if dessert is on the line too. They'll be like, I'm done, can I be excused? Okay, can I have a dessert? No, you didn't eat your growing food. Oh, okay, and then they finish their food. Here's what happened one time recently. I forget if he'd lost his dessert or we had no dessert that night available or allowed. And my 3-year-old said, I'm satisfied, I'm done. Okay, can I have a dessert? Well, no, we don't have a dessert, but you may be excused. Oh, okay, can I have some more food? And the kid ate 2 more servings of everything we had. And I went, oh my gosh. That tells me a little something about what I thought was motivating people to finish their dinner. So it would be a big transition, Alicia. You'd have to introduce it, like bedtime snack, is going to be canceled after this week maybe, or some parents, if they really feel their kids need some fat and protein for overnight, will just do 6 almonds or a spoonful of peanut butter and change the bedtime snack to something that's not as motivating. It won't be perfect right away. It'll be tough. And the kids might not eat as good, might not eat as well at dinner for the first couple weeks, but I can almost guarantee that it'll just kind of even out. So, but it'll have to be intentional. This is what we're doing. Parents on any adults in the house are on board and we're just going to make it happen and then be stubborn. Because that is, if you're eating at 6:30 or 7, a bedtime snack is probably almost certainly unnecessary for their little bellies. There's another question about vegetarian options for the classes. There's only one class that uses meat specifically, and it's how to brown ground beef. So out of 32 lessons, vegetarians really don't fit with 1. My apologies, but I felt that was kind of important. So there's really only 1 that has meat in it. And I always offer other ideas that parents can teach if a certain skill completely doesn't fit their kids, right? We do teach how to cook eggs. So if you're egg allergic, that doesn't work. I list a couple of other ideas for kids at that stage of learning. Jill has an interesting question here. If my 4-year-old won't eat the food being served and then does do the smell it, lick it, taste it, should I offer another healthy option? So here's the meal strategy, parents. Usually there's more than one thing, right? There's a soup and a bread and some raw veggies, or there's maybe a main course casserole and then a side dish veggie. There's usually parts. And so always make sure that your child likes one part that is served. Now, this is a little bit different if the child only eats PB&J. You might have to let them just move on to their PB&J like we talked about earlier. But if your kid has, a decent wide variety of stuff that they'll eat, make sure at least one thing at the meal is something that they can just eat, right? So for my kids, they all eat raw veggies and dip. So if they literally don't like the meal, they're going to have a big pile of raw veggies and dip, and that's great. That's fine. They'll be a little hungry when they go to bed, but they'll also eat a really good breakfast. And so that's okay. So for your 4-year-old, don't go get something else from the kitchen. Just say, once you've smelled, licked, or tasted everything on your plate, now you can have everything else. Oh, Ella is from another country. PB&J is peanut butter and jelly. It's kind of a classic American kid sandwich. That was such a funny question. What portion of a snack for a 6-year-old? Ivy's kids eat almost another lunch, like a half sandwich after school at 3:30, and then doesn't eat much for dinner at 6. Anytime your child is not, you're thinking, uh-oh, I don't think they're that hungry for dinner, size of snack is a huge troubleshooting area. So for a 6-year-old, I might cut that down to a quarter sandwich, or I might change it to fruit or a vegetable or something that would kind of like digest a little quicker, Ivy, and just kind of play around with that and see what happens. Definitely a snack should never be the same size as a meal. Okay, so if your 6-year-old eats a half sandwich for a meal, then a quarter sandwich would be a good snack, or something else, like something completely different. Maybe like grains and nuts tend to be really filling and satiating, which is what some people need. Other kids need like a half a banana or a half an apple because you want them to be hungry. So it's all kind of a game, but we can win at this game, parents. We can win at this game. Thank you so much, you guys. I'm so glad that this was helpful. And I have a couple questions that came in email, and so I'm going to make sure I answer these questions, and at the very least, people can watch it in a replay if they're not here. So if all your questions were answered, God bless you. Thank you for being here. And win at the dinner table. We're going to have family meal times be more peaceful and more calm, and kids eating more food, more healthy food. And definitely use that knife skills class. Watch for emails from me. And I hope to welcome you as members of our Kids Cook Real Food eCourse sometime soon. Okay, so a lot of questions actually came in email. This is so related. Melissa asked how to make filling meals so the kids aren't asking for snack every 5 seconds or more filling snacks. So we actually teach the kids in some of our extra classes that fat and protein are very satiating and carbs are for quick energy. So whether it's a meal or a snack, whatever you kind of need to be more filling to balance out the begging, make sure you include a lot of fat or protein. So if you serve steamed frozen broccoli at dinner, drench that in butter, drench that in olive oil. Fats are good for children. Fats are good for adults too, actually. They don't make you fat, but that's another topic for another presentation. But including a lot of fat, so a really good healthy dip, like a homemade ranch dip. We make a ranch in our class out of just sour cream and spices. That's great for dipping those veggies. So if that makes sense, those kinds of things will keep kids and adults full and satiated longer. And then the other stuff I think we answered. I'm so excited. Sonia's been lining out stuff that I answered in the presentation. So this is good. I answered a lot of them. Oh man, Tristan's got a common problem. The husband and her are also picky. So she has a lot of sympathy for her kids. If you're in that situation, either both parents or just one parent is super picky, it's just kind of up to you to use that eraser, erase those failing words, and decide that you want better for your kids, right? So first of all, I would use these strategies on yourself. I've seen them work, like the bridging the gap thing, totally how I like yogurt now. I did not eat yogurt as a kid. I thought it was gross. When I was pregnant, I was stuck like in a cafe with pastries and yogurt, and I was starving. And I was like, oh, I cannot eat these like sugary pastries. This is not going to be good for my baby. I just have to choke down the yogurt. So I did. And I ended up learning to enjoy yogurt. I ate it sugary at first, and then I kind of weaned myself down. I bridged myself. I put my favorite frozen fruit in there and just a little bit of honey, and then less honey and less honey. So adults can change their palates too. So I would highly encourage you, if you feel you are a picky eater, to just make the decision to kind of tough it out. You don't have to like the food, right? But being a good example, like my husband doesn't like salmon, and so he'll eat it anyway, as a good example for our kids. I don't like tomatoes. I will try a tomato every summer just to kind of show my kids, like, this is what we do. We try things. And I'll be like, still not my favorite. But they see that, and like, that's a huge impact on them. So that is what I would do. It's just about kind of being an adult and making the decision that you want better for your kids, and then behaving like that. Maybe you're the one who doesn't eat the main course and just eats the vegetable. But I truly believe that most adults can change their palates to love healthy food too. And then, we've got a sensory question. I think we emailed Bianca the SPD post. That's really important. This is a really tough question. Julie asks about a 7-year-old child who just refuses to eat things that he used to love, and she's seeing it as a power struggle, a real control issue. He's got a lot of things in his life that are out of control, and she feels that food is the one place he can be in control. And I would say, Julie, a lot of the stuff in this presentation still apply. You're going to set those boundaries of like, this is what we eat. And it's okay if you eat, it's okay if you don't. But here are the 3 choices we have for dinner today. I would definitely try to get that child preparing food. If he doesn't want to prepare food for himself, again, use that like serving others thing. See if you can have a party or have some friends over and teach him to prepare something for them. The act of serving sometimes ends up serving ourselves when we realize that we can eat those foods. So my prayers are with you, Julie. That is a tough one, but I hope that this helps. Megan says her kids hate meat, and it's so hard to get them to eat it, and then loving something one day and hating it the next. And that is, man, you know what? That's pretty much the same thing here. Is it try different dips and sauces and presentations, and then just like one bite. If they really are struggling with meat, I would say serve tiny portions, like teeny tiny portions of everything, including the meat, and then they can eat everything that they like. And they have that one little bite of meat staring them in the face. And if they can get through that one bite, then they can get seconds of everything else, right? If you can do that without it being a super huge power struggle. What would a sample daily food routine look like? This is a good one. So, and whoever this is said breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. Yeah, exactly. We do breakfast before school, so it's usually done by about 8. Snacks at 9:30 or 10. Lunch is around noon. Snacks at 3. Dinner's at 6 for us. And that might be totally different for other people. And that changes as people age too. My 12-year-old he really doesn't need 2 snacks a day. So he usually just has an after school snack at 3. Well, and he's a good eater. So like, I don't really worry about him other than saying, no, you can't have a whole cup of raisins and don't take them to your room. Right? Like, so there's lots of things change as kids age. Littler children do need more snacks, but they still should not need more than 1 between each meal. Joe asks, is there a favorite kids cookbook you like best? No. I don't have a favorite. There are a couple cookbooks though on that resources page. I'll put that link in again. There are a couple cookbooks at the bottom. There's a really fun book. Oh, I don't have it here. Called A Niece Loves Green Food, and it's a picture book, but it has recipes in it. Actually, that one's really, really good, and it's all real food. Super cute story. For kids maybe like 8 and under, although my 9-year-old girl loves to cook from it, right? So we read it to the little brothers and then she cooks from it. So that's a really fun one. Oh, so such a good session, you guys. Thank you for being supportive. Thank you for being here in the chat. And thank you for sticking it out. I'm so happy to answer questions by email too. You'll get some emails from me over the next few days. If you think of something, just hit reply. Like that really does come to me and my customer service team, which is all made up of moms like Sonia, whose kids have done the course. So they know what's up. They know what's up. Yes, Anise Loves Red Food is coming out this year, and Sonia's son's recipe is featured in it, which is so cool. He entered a contest and he won for the red food like guest recipe. We're super excited. So yes, thank you all. This is it, and do that knife skills class. Take care.